Letter of recommendations are very important, but at the same time, this is the most neglected part of any scholarship. Usually, applicants don't pay any attention to letter of recommendations, and that's why almost 95% of the applicants to the scholarships get rejections. Because if everything else is super well written, but letter of recommendations are not that well written, then how you are going to win the scholarship? So in this video, I'm going to read my letter of recommendation for you guys so that you guys can write an amazing letter of recommendation. And also I will share 10 tips of letter of recommendation. Although I'm going to read my letter of recommendation for you guys, but to make sure that you are not copying my letter of recommendation, so it's better that I tell you guys that how to write an amazing letter of recommendation. So let me tell you, if you follow these 10 tips and my letter of recommendation template, then you are good to win any scholarship in the world. And letter of recommendations are very, very, very important for any scholarship. If we consider the first point of letter of recommendation, which is very important, is relevant. Relevancy is the key, guys. If you're applying for any scholarship in the world, applying to any program, either it's PhD, either it's master's or bachelor's, relevancy is the key. And especially in Erasmus, relevancy is the key. If you want to win Erasmus, your letter of recommendation, your CV, your letter of motivation, everything must be relevant to the program. By the way, if you have missed my video on letter of motivation, which is the most important document to win any scholarship, you must watch that video too. Here is the link to watch that video. Here is the I button. So relevance is the key. If you are approaching to the professor, just ask him to write only those things which are relevant to the program that you are applying. For example, you are applying in a program of embedded system, but you are an electrical engineer. Write only those projects which are relevant to the program that you have done with the professor. Communicate with your professor that you are applying in a specific field. So only those things must be written in your field. For example, you have 10 projects with the professor, but only 3 projects are relevant to the course that you are applying. So only write those 3 projects in the letter of recommendation. You have to communicate with the professor who is writing for you. By the way, in Pakistan and India, usually students write and they send it to their professor and their professor just sign it. So that's the simplest rule. You have to write it for yourself. And the second and the most important point that I had in my letter of recommendation was specific attributes of the person. For example, you are a student and your professor is writing for you. Ask your professor to write your specific attributes, not write a generic document. Like, I have reviewed so many letter recommendations and everyone is writing like he has very good communication skills. But which communication skills? Where professor has interacted with you that he can comment on which communication skill that you have, and it is good, to which level it is good. So everything must be specific, that which communication skills, which speaking skills, writing skills you have, and where your professor has seen you. For example, he has seen your presentation in the class, he has seen your presentation in the conference or anywhere. If he has seen you presenting something, if he has seen you in a managerial task, for example, you were working in some of the clubs or societies in your school. So everything must be specific. And now the third point, the technical one, your professor must mention the skills that you have and how he knows that you have that skill. If you have done any project with the professor, you should explain the project in the document, that what was the project, which software student has used, and what were the achievements of the student in that project, and what technical skills like softwares and other technical skills he gained from that project. So it's important. And now the fourth point, your research skills. Only your professor can comment on your research skills. No one else can comment on your research skills. So it's important to ask your professor to write something about your research skills, because if you're applying for masters or PhD and in scholarship, admission committee is looking for those people who have prior research experience, maybe not if they have publication or something like that, but they must have done something related to research, like research projects. So ask your professor to must write your research skills potential in your letter of recommendation. It's very important. And now an important point, your strengths. It's the fifth point. And also the weaknesses, because in letter of recommendation usually professor writes only strengths. He has this strength, he's very good at research, he's very good at this software, at a particular software, but they are not mentioning the weaknesses, how he handles pressure or anything that he needs to improve it, something like that. He should mention those things too, because it's always a learning experience, and admission committee also accept these things too. If a person has to improve something, it's not a negative thing. Letter of recommendation can have these things too. So it's also important to mention the weaknesses if you have any, because no one is perfect and admission committee knows this. Sixth point is the most important point, how student challenge himself. This is the important point, I would say most important point in any letter of recommendation. How student challenge himself, how he is open to new tasks. If student is given any task, how he deals with it, how he research, because research is something that you don't know, and you are exploring something new, and how he explores something new, that's the important thing. So your professor must write this thing in your letter of recommendation, that how he perceived new things, new cultures, new adaptabilities, new work environment. So it's important. Now also the seventh point, how he deals with the deadlines and pressure, because in research you will face a lot of pressure, and your admission committee wants to know that how you can deal with the pressure. So it's important that you ask your recommender that he should write something like this, that how was his experience seeing you dealing the pressure. So it's important also. And now the important point, professor should mention about your extracurricular activities, how you work in a team, how you deal with people, how you present yourself. Basically it's your extracurricular activities. For example, if you have worked with any club or society of your university, then your professor should mention the name of that student club or society that you were part of, and also your position. And if he has seen you dealing with any projects related to that student club, he should write something like that too. It will help you to specify that letter of recommendation specific to you. And nine is the very important point for the country. Basically your professor should mention that what research gaps they have in the field in their own country, and they lack professionals in that field or not, and how it gonna help if you the student is going to study in their esteemed institute, and how it going to help the country of the student. So this is very important. For example, professor is writing like, I have 20 years of work experience in the research of water resources of my country, and with that experience I can tell that if he gets a scholarship, it will help my country to improve the research. Professor should mention something about the country also. And the last point in my letter of recommendation is, everything is specific. If you were working in a group, how many people you were working with, how many people you led. So it's very important to deal in numbers, because everyone wants to listen in statistics that I led 5 people, I led 2 people, these things. And I think if you follow these 10 points, no one can stop you to win any scholarship in the world. By the way, I want to tell you guys that if you need any professional assistant in writing letter of recommendation, letter of motivation, or anything like that, we have created a platform for everything. For example, if you search scholarsavenue.info, you will find latest scholarships, latest opportunities, latest internships. So you should be part of this community too. You can check the description and go to the website, explore the website, and you will find a lot of scholarship opportunities. And on that website you can also ask for our services too, for letter of recommendation, for letter of motivation. We have a team of international students who have won multiple most prestigious scholarships around the world, and they are currently studying in United States, UK, and around the Europe. So it's important if they are sharing their experience, so you should also join us on that platform too. And now if you want to get the template of my letter of recommendation, go to the description, you will find the link of the template. So that's all for the video. Must subscribe our channel because it's free for you, but it boosts our confidence and will make better videos. So that's all for this video. And don't forget, by the way, we are making a series on Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. So follow this series too.